All right, guys. So our next topic is another one we get almost every day on the forum. And it's guys who are pinning steroids and they're complaining about pain at the site, pain running down from the site, and also red, hot to the touch pain. So what is going on here, guys? Let me just say, first of all, we get this question a lot. And guys, most of the time, I'd say 99% of the time, it is not an infection. What that is simply your body having a reaction to what you're injecting, because our bodies think that it's a foreign invader when you inject the gear. It could be something, it could be the metabolites in the gear, it could be the oil, the type of oil, it could be your body's just in the mood to freak out. Maybe your body just didn't want to be injected that day, so it's going to react. So what does the body do when it reacts to any foreign invasion? Of course, it's going to raise the temperature because it wants to get rid of it. It's trying to expel it out of the body. So that's a normal way for our immune system to react. So most of the time, guys, 99% of the time, it is nothing to worry about, especially if it starts right away. It's simply that post-injection pain. Now, what I would recommend is that if you continuously get this issue and you're rotating sites and you're getting this consistently, I would change the type of gear you're injecting, because obviously it's not agreeing with you. And sometimes some sources, they might use grapeseed oil, they may use cottonseed oil, they may use another oil. I've seen sources even use peanut oil. If you're allergic to peanuts, every time you inject, you're going to have a reaction because your body is going to think that you're getting invaded by peanuts and your body doesn't like peanuts. So try a different source. If you're getting this from a specific spot on your body, stop injecting that spot because your body does not like to be pinned there. Another problem too is tissue irritation. And this is really common. If you inject in your triceps and your biceps and your calves, those types of very, very sensitive muscles, again, you will get something called tissue irritation. And the bad news with tissue irritation, it's going to take a while to go away. It can take 7, 8, 9, 10 days, 2 weeks to go away. And in that time, there's really not much you can do except maybe put some ice on it to kind of ease up on that. And you might notice it kind of gets big, the muscle kind of like gets like 25, 50% bigger than the other muscle because it's inflamed, because the body's trying to fight what it perceives as an injury. So there's all kinds of different reasons for these types of issues. But if it consistently happens, guys, you have to consider changing brands, or you have to consider not injecting in that specific spot. And I've had all the above happen to me. I'm one of the more sensitive guys when it comes to post-injection pain. We call it PIP on the forums. I'm probably one of the more sensitive people when it comes to it. I get reactions to just about every gear out there. It sucks, but it's just something that I've learned to live with. And one of the tricks I do is just I don't inject very much steroids. And I make sure that the muscles I inject in don't mind being injected, and I inject after a hot shower and stuff like that, and it kind of eases it up. So everyone's different. Some guys can just inject and it doesn't even bother them. How about you, Rick? What's your advice here?
I think you covered it pretty well. I would say, look, one way to know if you have an actual infection from your shot is the way it looks. If it's light in the middle and reddish, darkish on the outside, chances are that is an infection. When I mean light in the middle, I don't mean you wait until this pus there and now I have an infection. Now, like, it'll be warm to the touch. It'll have like a reddish ring, and it'll be lighter in the middle while the infection is coming along. And another way to know if it's an infection or your muscle is just sore from the injection, maybe short esters, stairs crystallized, whatever. One way to know if it's an infection or not is if it gets progressively worse. If it gets worse, if it doesn't improve. An infection is going to get progressively worse as opposed to maybe a bad shot, which should get better, feel better the next day and feel better after. So that is another way of knowing if you have an infection. Everything else, man, just like Steve said, I think you covered it well, Steve. No need to go over it again. I think.
All right, guys. So our last topic is funny gym stories. So let me tell mine first, and let Rick, if Rick has one or if he wants to react. So this happened quite a few years ago. This was over in at a gym. It was a pretty good meathead gym that I used to work out at, and so I'm working out just like normal. So it's like a normal 6 o'clock evening. Like to work out after work. And one of my chick friends that I got to know at the gym, because she, how it goes. You work out, you get to know people every day. The same regulars come in 5 o'clock sharp. They leave work, go home, take a dump, get their gym equipment, come to the gym. Same thing. Everyone does the same thing, and you see them every day. You get to know them. So I work out sometimes. She has me spot her or whatnot. She's flirtatious and stuff. I mean, I never fucked her or anything, but we became, pretty cool friends. She's a cool girl. So one day she comes in, I'm working out like usual. She comes in like 15 minutes late, which is not normal for her. She's usually there like literally right when I show up. She'll show up like a minute or two after. We're creatures of nature. So she shows up like 15 minutes. She throws her bag on the floor. And I'm like, Rebecca, like, what the hell is wrong? You're in a bad mood today? I'm like, fucking with her. And she like gives me this mean look. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what's up? Like, seriously, what's wrong? And she's like, I just got in a fight with some guy in the parking lot. She's like, he was yelling at me. He wanted to kick my ass, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what? She's like this little petite, like 110-pound girl and stuff. And I'm like, whoa, like, what? Are you serious? And she's like, yeah, he was going to kick my ass, blah, blah, blah. I didn't even do anything. So I'm like, who's this guy? Like, what car was it? I'm going to go outside. I'm going to fucking find out who this motherfucker is. Like, point his car out. She's like, no, Steve, I don't want to get you involved, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wait a minute. He shouldn't be yelling at a woman, That's bullshit. He doesn't have a right to threaten you and say he's going to kick your ass. What the fuck? So she's like, no, let it go. I don't want to get you involved, blah, blah, blah. So like maybe half hour later, we're working out in the gym. She's doing the pull down machine. I'm like right next to her. And she points and she's like, she comes up to me. She's like, what's this? She's like, Steve, that's him over there. So I look over to the guy and I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, do you know who that guy is? And she's like, no. I'm like, that's a professional football player. That's Barry Wagner. He's one of the best AFL players during the 90s, and he played in the 2000s in a couple NFL teams. So I was like, fuck, I've seen him around the gym, working out. We had a lot of like, former professional athletes and current professional athletes who hit the gym too. It was the off season, and I was like, fuck. So I was like, man, he's threatening her. Like, this guy's like fucking 230, 340 pounds, 6'4". He's threatening this little 110-pound girl. So I'm like, this shit doesn't add up. It's like a week later, I go up to him. I'm like, yo, what's up, Barry? He's like, hey, he knows who I am. We're not on a first name basis, but he's seen me around the gym a lot. So I'm like, dude, I'm sorry to bother you, but I got to ask you this. I mean, do you remember some girl like a week ago getting in a confrontation with her in the parking lot? And he's like, oh shit, you talking about that little Mexican girl? And I'm like, yeah, what happened with that? He's like, oh my gosh. He's like, I was in the parking lot, parking my car, and she rams into the side of my car with her car. And then she attempts to leave the parking lot. So I'm like, I run after her and I stop her in the parking lot. And I'm like knocking on her window. I just want her insurance information. And she starts cursing at me, calling me the N-word. End this, end that, end this, get away from me. Like threatening to shoot me and all this stuff. And I'm like, holy shit. So I was like, fuck, it's like, so that's a perfect example of don't jump to conclusions. Because a week earlier, if I'd run outside trying to kick this guy's ass, he would have fucking beat the shit out of me. This guy's like 6'4", 230, 240 pounds football player. So that's just a perfect example, guys, of never like just take someone's word for what they say. She was completely in the wrong. Like she hit him in the parking lot and she just didn't want to like fork over her insurance information to him and stuff. So yeah, that was, I almost got my ass kicked on that particular day.
That's yeah, it's tough to try to come back after the fact and figure out what happened. You kind of have to be there to be a hero, because you come back after the fact, man. You might not be on the right side of the argument.
Yeah, so that's just a lesson, guys. Never let your temper get to you, and never just never try to be the hero. There's always two sides to every story, so don't just take someone's word for it. So, all right, guys, look, we really appreciate the questions coming in. Again, if you have questions, just drop me a message, Steve SMI, on the forums. I look forward to talking to you guys. We will talk to you guys on the next episode. Have a good one, Rick.
Hey, have a good one, Steve. Have a good one, guys.
Guys, this is the required legal disclaimer. We are only sharing our experience from years of steroid use. We are not doctors, and none of what we say should be regarded as medical advice. Always check with your doctor before taking any drugs or starting any training program.